Hello, welcome back to Galactic Goddess TV. I'm Nelia, and today we have Eva Vennari. She's the founder of Elevate Institute and is known for thinking differently in the realm of true holistic healing. So today we're going to continue our conversation on dragons and debunking the myths, how divine beings like dragons became demonized. So welcome, Eva.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yay. So I thought this was a very important conversation to have. I was watching a podcast and basically somebody I really like, and he was talking about a dragon being a demon. And I thought that was very interesting and how like religion and things like that have basically demonized dragons or, serpents. And let's just have a conversation about that. Let's jump.
Yeah.
What do you have to
Yeah.
say?
Well, I would have to say that when it comes to sentient beings that are also elementals and part of our unseen and seen um, supporters, the all of our beings that are, and I'm trying to put together a generic term, as general term as possible. It's like we have a spirit team. And some of that spirit team is going to be people on earth who are our soul mates. They can be friend, they can be lover, they can be family, soul mates, right? So we're talking about soul family. And then they can also be the unseen beings. We're talking about angels. We're talking about our higher self. We're talking about people who have actually are spirits who have never been human before. There may be star seed from other planets, the galactics, other things. And then you have the elementals like the unicorns, the dragons, and there are so many others. So there's all of these different beings that are part of our spirit team. And just like with humans, there's really bad ones, and then there's ones that are not. But most of us in general, are not out to kill each other. We're here to help each other. So that's where we start. Is it possible that somebody, I'm asking your question, is it possible that a dragon could be made into a demon? More likely, just like a human being who is doing evil things, Hitler, could be made into a demon by our judgment, but ultimately, it's just a bad egg.
Mhm. Right, yeah. But so I think dragons have kind of come they were so relevant and prevalent throughout history. Like you see, we talked about it before, you see their statues, their paintings, their writings about them everywhere. There's not one part of the world where dragons weren't discussed as if they were living beings. Um,
They are, yeah.
and so, I think in religion and things like that, they talk about the serpent. And let's just talk about how maybe like religion has demonized the dragons, or how does that
Yeah. Well, and if we start with just the snake or the serpent, which, by the way, the Bible never specifically says in all of the ancient texts that it's a snake. So that's number one. In the ancient text written originally in Greek, doesn't use the word snake, doesn't use serpent, but the actually doesn't use the word serpent either. But when we look back on other religions that are outside of um, the Christian denominations that come from Catholicism, Catholics were the first as far as following Christian, and then all of the Christians that disagreed with each other and with Catholics decided to come up with their own. So all of that, let's put it under the Catholic umbrella. They decided that the serpent, because they used that as a representation of the devil to try to tempt Eve into biting the apple, that's the origin story. Not that I believe it, but there you have it. That the snake must be demonic and evil. Well, if we look at other religious factions like all over the world, all the different religions out there, the snakes, especially like in the Chinese history, snakes are wisdom, they're protection, they're about rebirth, they're about good fortune. That's not demonic.
yeah, right.
So then we go, okay, well, how did serpents and dragons get lumped into the same thing? Well, there are two different things. One is an animal
Mhm.
from Earth, and the other one is a sentient being. Dragons have eyelashes, and anything that is a cold-blooded, like a reptile, is reptile. They do not have eyelashes. Two different things. They just have scales, right? So entirely different. Dragons are here for protection. They're here to protect us. So it was the very first thing that my higher self told me when I said, "What is a dragon doing in my ether?" And he's like, he's here to protect you. So they're about wisdom. They're known for good luck. They're elemental, which means they work with the elements of the earth. They're magical masters. So when you look at the collection of, if you were to go on to any search engine and type in, name all the types of dragons, the dragon that everybody thinks of, like Smaug from the Lord of the Rings, that big scary red European dragon, that's dragon. There are wyverns, there are serpent beings, there are all these different kinds of dragon subcategories, and
Mm.
one of them is serpent, unrelated to snake. So there's all of these things that a little bit of education, a little bit of agency on, look it up for yourself, see the evidence. Don't believe what you hear as the nomenclature or a myth that was passed down. Like if you hear somebody talking about anything, look it up,
Mm.
trust and verify. That's going to be what you want to do. But I can say for certainty when it comes to snakes and dragons, two different things, two different mindsets, and then it's how we look at them. It has to do with culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you, so I mean, I guess the dragons, um, people try to demonize what they can't control is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that's such a big thing. If somebody can't control a narrative, can't control a being, it's better to demonize them. That way they can gain some other kind of control. So how does that work in relation to dragons? Because if you can get enough people to think that way, that they're evil, and then you get everybody going against them.
It's a really good question, and I love it. My mind is going into all of this stuff about it. It's all right. Look, dragons. That's a toxic behavior in response to somebody holding boundaries, is it not? So a person who says, I can't control you, so therefore you must be bad and I must kill you. I don't know. Um, that doesn't sound like a healthy behavior. So I would question the human
Right?
who's taking that stance. So first of all, dragons are not to be controlled.
Mhm.
They're sentient beings just like you and they have sovereignty. They're they hold themselves to such a high level of integrity that the only way that you can commune with them is by holding yourself to that same level of integrity. So if you're wanting to control them, flip the narrative. And I think I said this in the last discussion, is that you don't get to control dragons. You're not the master in the situation. They're much more intelligent than we are. And they're the ones who are here to teach us magic. If you had something that they could learn from you, it would be the other way around, but it is not. So
Know your place.
yeah, know your place. Yeah, seriously, when you're working with a dragon, it is an honor that they decided that you are worthy of their time and attention. And Enos is that's right. That's it's the dragon I work with, and it's a telepathic communication. So all the time you're with your dragon master. That does not make you a master of dragons.
Hmm. Hmm. Beautiful. I mean, I think that's just the way humans think, they've always wanted to conquer everything, on Earth, everything, including women, right? So like, it's it's very typical that something would be distorted in this way. So I think that's why this conversation is interesting, because we're just kind of we're just kind of having a conversation just to spark like what this may be about. How did they get
Yeah.
demonized? Why, when people talk about the serpent, like it's like an evil thing, so much mythology, and control, and some people say that in the Bible that what God created this Bible, like it could be like a demigod, like not the ultimate creator, and the tree of knowledge that the serpent whatever they call the serpent, that she, they say Eve, of course, blame the woman, ate from, you know what I mean? Like the maybe that demigod or that consciousness didn't want those beings to have full awakening consciousness, so
Yeah.
there's like I think we have to ask questions about things that we read as factual and true. It's really important to ask questions. Well, what's really the story behind this? Like, why did they say don't eat the apple? Because what kind of knowledge are you going to get? Like, why are you so afraid of people having knowledge? Like, this is all about controlling narratives, right? And of course, the woman, I mean, come on, a woman coming from the rib of a man. That's so insulting considering women have wombs and men come from women.
Did you see? Okay, so most recently there was a reinterpretation on the Hebrew, going back again to the original Greek with which it was written. So to go back to the classicists, which are the men and women who read the original text in their original language and interpret it correctly
Mhm.
for updated information. The word that was used for side is the same that is used for rib. So the suggestion on the update of our interpretation of they took a rib from Adam to make Eve is actually they split his body in half and made Eve. So she should be by his side as an equal partner. And
Mhm.
that is how it is today as the update interpretation. It just has not trickled down into all of society. But it is not just a little side, you're right. And it was a difference in the number of unique words within both of those languages. Greek has over 2,000 unique words in its vocabulary, in its full vernacular. And Hebrew only has 800. So there's a limited number of words that could be used for the greater number of available options in the original language.
Mm.
And that's where much of the Bible's misconstrued, what we consider today as being direct quotes in English, which is impossible. I don't know any, that doesn't even make sense to me. As an English speaking person, reading an English Bible, knowing that it's gone through several iterations of translations from the original Greek or Latin or oh my gosh, what the Essenes, I think they wrote. So some of it was in their language too. It's like all of these different languages are no longer spoken. So we don't have active meanings of them. We just have vague interpretations, most of which was shoved into a smaller container of the Hebrew language and then into English
Mm.
or another language in between that. So we don't have the proper understanding of what the Bible says, and we should never read it as factual history. Ever, ever, ever. It's the greatest story ever told. It's absolutely a story.
Mhm. Right. Yeah,
Anyways,
exactly.
that took a whole new turn.
I mean, no, because we have to question things like, okay, who interpreted it? Like, what was their motive? Like, you have to ask questions because things get lost in translation. Then you have multiple languages, and then you have the patriarchy. Like, what is going on? You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah, you have, and there's no different than today's politicians. The Pope was the all supreme power of the Christian world, the Catholic world. So that is, and it's funny how many Christians are like, I'm Christian, I'm not Catholic. Christians came from Catholics. It's just there's no if, ands, or buts about that. And Catholic, the word means universal, right? So it's trying to encompass all religions. Anyways, yeah, that there were definitely plots for power and control, and it came and stemmed from the Vatican. The Vatican was supreme power over all of politics. We have to remember that when different things like Galileo said, yeah, so guys, I think the earth is actually revolving around the sun. And the Vatican had a really viscerally negative reaction to that and said, but that doesn't match what it says in our context and in our Bible. So therefore, it cannot be true. You need to make science match what
Mhm.
it says in our text. And that's pretty much how science continues to act today. Anybody who goes out into the world and is a scientist, they're studying the world, they're studying the things around them. I'm a scientist because I love to study what is around me for greater enrichment. And when I'm told, oh, well, that can't be true, your discovery can't be true because it's not peer reviewed. That's not science.
Hmm.
And what we're doing today is that study of mythology, the study of the elementals, the study of this is a part of who are we as an eternal being? What relationship do we have with the universe and the beings that are unseen that are here with us to help us? That's part of what we are here to study. So I'm not off on that big of a tangent. It all falls under the same really big umbrella, but it you can tell I have interest in these details in all of this language. At some point, I will go back to school to become a classicist because I found out that these are my people. They speak truth. And that's the thing. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, you're attracted to the truth. You're attracted to do right. You're attracted to do right, even if it's the hard thing to do.
Mm. Amen to that, sister. Amen to that. I know. Yeah, right. But I appreciate that. That's one thing I love about you, though. Your passion for the truth and finding it, and so going back to the elemental beings, like I feel that there are so many elemental beings that for the person who's not tuned in will not have access to, because believe things are dimensionally access to us, right? So if you have the ability to go into the higher realms, then you do have access to certain beings that you can see. Why, how come some people can see angels and some can't, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it was funny. I was listening to a show, Peter Laws. He does a show on YouTube. It's all about hauntings. And he asks these like fun and amazing questions too. And every time I hear him ask a question, like when he's retelling a story of a haunting and one person in the group sees it, but nobody else does, he asks that question, is that person, somehow touched a little bit? Is there something wrong? Could it be easily explained by just, oh, a draft is coming in. You felt the chills because there's a draft from the window. No, that is a person who is gifted. They have spirit communication gift that has been underdeveloped and they're being tapped on the shoulder. Now is the time because you have a gift of awareness and that has to be nurtured. So I think in seeing any of these other elemental beings, for me, it has been the same thing. As I was exposed to phenomena that were considered paranormal, um, you can get scared, and absolutely I did. I'm just like everybody else. The first time Enos came into my experience in my ether, that was very scary to see a 3 foot big wide eye in front of me. And wow, that I think is a dragon. That's very scary. And every time you have an initial contact, it's scary. Have the courage to reach out and ask questions, be curious. This is the moment of curiosity. And I think this is just me pontificating about it. I think we all have this magical ability if we want to communicate,
Mhm.
because we're all physical beings connected to Gaia, Mother Earth, and connected through our chakra centers to source energy. That gives us access to the magic that would allow us to see the angels, the guides, the loved ones, the elementals. We just
Absolutely.
have to know how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I've heard this story so many times from people. Like when they were a kid, they could see, and then they didn't feel like it was normal, so they shut it down. And then when
Yeah.
I'm having a conversation with them, or if they're having a session, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I remember something," right? You remember something, and then they remember like, "Oh, I have seen." People, sometimes they see spirits, sometimes they see other things, and it's not like a bad thing. It's not, doesn't mean something is wrong with you. um I think so many people in this world have shut down their senses, and I think everybody has the ability
Yeah.
if they wanted to, but I think so many people don't, felt afraid. Of course the society didn't support that, there's no place where you could go where they're like, "That's amazing, honey. Like tell me
Just
more."
me. I can do that. I'll do that for you. Well, okay, it's the same thing as giving a kindergartner calculus to play with. Very scary. It doesn't make sense. We have to, many people who come to the place of spirit communication at some level, they're self-starters and they've given themselves permission to not be shut down. And sometimes that means leaving their family home first, getting away from whatever constrictive thought process is, you know, what if you need to be safe in an environment and not share your spiritual experiences in a family that says you're probably schizophrenic if you believe in that, that would end you up in at the funny farm. We don't want that.
Mhm.
We don't want you on medications being drugged up because somebody says, "Oh, I saw a dragon, so therefore you must be crazy."
Mhm.
No, there are other means, and people like me and people like you are a safe place to go. So that's where I'd start.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, we don't have the funny farm. But like,
Yeah.
and that's, I mean, but so many people now are talking about this, like, talking about their experiences. They talk about fairies, they talk about dragons. People are talking about elemental beings. And I also, and I think it's so beautiful. I, for one, always believed in fairies as a little girl. And I remember doing quite a bit of offering and singing to them and like I just really believed in them. And then I saw a sphere of a ball of light. It was like a fuchsia color, but I mean it wasn't like the fairy like we thought of. It didn't have like I didn't see all the wings and stuff. I just saw this beautiful, brilliant light and I felt like it was connecting and communicating with me. But so it may not also be like the same way we think. Like some people may experience things just a little bit different. So we don't have to think, oh, the fairy has four wings and like you're gonna get you know, you're gonna get them
Yeah,
out.
some of them have wings, some can fly, some cannot. Um, they're all in the other world, and there's multiple species, not species. Yeah, there's multiple kinds.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
like there are dogs. You think about the number of types of dogs, the different kind of dogs they are, and the different
right.
breeds. Yeah, there are different kinds of breeds within the races. So,
I think it's more about the communication too, like how we communicate, like with if somebody's connecting with their dragon, do you think they're always going to first see them? Maybe they could hear them. I mean, who knows like what somebody's senses are more developed with, right? Or
oh, well, I mean, okay, so funny story. Funny story. My dragon master was in my sphere of experience long before I was aware of it. And when I was married, my now deceased ex-husband was on medication to help with, I think he was being diagnosed with bipolar at the time. And so he was on this medication that kind of, when he took it right before bed, would open up the veil. And I remember a couple of times we had to stop having him take the medication because he started to see Enos and he was
oh,
scared of the dragon. So he
oh
took the
my
drug and all of a sudden, there's a dragon. And he would cry like a child and go into a fetal position. I'm like, come on, let's go to bed. And
God.
now that I'm able to communicate telepathically with Enos, he goes, yeah, that was me. So we have these beings around us when we are ready and when they deem we are ready, not when we think we are,
Wow.
then they will appear. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's very true when it comes to dragons. And they are telepathic, and 100% of them are here to protect us. They're not here to injure us. If there's one out there who's rogue, you know what they're doing? They've got him on their radar, and they're like, yeah, we're taking care of him.
Right. So if somebody said, "Oh, a dragon," I saw a dragon in the underground cabin. It could have very well be like some kind of another reptile being. It doesn't necessarily have to be quote unquote like the dragon species. It could be another kind of reptile being, possibly. Possibly.
It could be it's something entirely different. I don't. I'm scientific, so I would go into the cave and be like, "Where are you? Who are you? What do you want?" Like that's how I treat anything that I come across. It's with, massive curiosity and
Yeah.
investigation.
Right.
Who are you? What do you want? What are you about? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always, I think it's always important to Well, for me personally, I just say, if I'm having an encounter, I'd say, "Are you from the light? Are you from the light? Are you from the light?" You
Well,
know, or however you want to do it. I mean, so everyone has their different way, but you can ask 3 times. I mean, if you're not sure, you want to, so you can qualify in different ways because we don't want to just always entertain like anything that comes into our space. We can be curious, but some people, I mean, some people are prone to darker, you know, things, and so they may not want something like that in their field.
well, and spiritual discernment really does come into play. So when you're investigating and asking questions, you're being a little tricky about it. So you want to make sure you ask questions that can reveal whether or not a person, an entity, is looking to control you. So look for answers that align with your highest good as a sovereign human being. If they're saying, I once had a dragon come to me in space time in my ether, in addition to Enos and the other team that I work with. And rather than coming to me by showing me his eye or showing himself in a mental picture of myself with him behind me, he came facing forward. So all I could see was his chest, and his head. Now, that's unusual.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually not dragon. So something was imitating a dragon in order to enter my space.
Mm-hmm.
So that was number one. And number two, he was asking me to give up all of my decision making to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I
That's
shunned him away. Yeah. The response was, and I'm understating it right now, no, thank you.
Mhm.
And got rid of him. So you have to have some discernment about who's in front of you, whether it's a human or an elemental. They all have ulterior motives. Some of them are ulterior is not necessarily negative. It's I'm here to protect, I'm here to help, I'm here. That would be a good motivation. But somebody who's here to control, to use your power, to use your energy, maybe especially if you don't know the full strength of your own magical abilities yet, and you have spiritual gifts that have been underdeveloped because you don't even know that they're there, doesn't mean they don't know they're there, and it doesn't mean they don't know how to use them, and they'll use you to get to it. So these are the reasons why you want to hold yourself to a higher accountability, one, and two, get to know who you are. What are my gifts? How do I use them? Who do I turn to for that is a trusted source? And that's going to be other people who hold themselves to a higher accountability. That's the most important part.
Thank you so much for coming on and chatting about this. I think it's a very important, subject, and I just thought we would continue the conversation. A lot of people are curious and want to know more. A lot of people are going through their awakenings and having more things that are coming up. So, you can always reach out to Eva. I'll put her information below. She's a great resource. And so thank you so much, Eva.
Thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Bye for now.